Can an iPhone 11 Pro really compete with a full-frame Sony camera? Let's find out. Hello everyone, it's SpawnPoint. So I've been using the Sony A7 Mark II since 2015, so for about 5 years now. It's an incredible camera. I actually use it daily for both personal and business use, and it's currently paired with the Tamron 28 to 75 2.8 lens, which in my opinion is the best all-rounder lens and probably the best lens I've ever owned. Over the years I've also had multiple lenses attached to this camera who I've kind of swapped it out with. And now I also own an iPhone 11 Pro Max, which you may have seen in one of my most latest videos. I'm absolutely blown away with the quality of the iPhone. I thought to myself, do I really need the Sony A7 anymore? Could I live without it? Could I just use the iPhone for pretty much everything? So what I thought I'd do is I'd compare the two side by side in the same setup, with the same subjects and even the same editing process to kind of keep it as fair as possible. And I'll be honest, the outcome has surprised me. One of the most asked questions I actually get on my Instagram account is, what camera do you use? And the fact that people are still asking this question today means either I'm really good at taking photos or the quality of the A7 exceeds that of any smartphone out there. So let's jump in. What we're going to do is we're going to compare the basic features of the two devices, then we'll compare photos taken with both, and you can kind of tell me, or you can see for yourself, which photo has been taken with which device. So first up, the price. Now, I wanted to compare these based on what I paid and what it's worth to me, which is kind of difficult because I did buy the camera 5 years ago. Now, I paid £1,300 for the body in 2015 and £750 for the lens just last year, which totals £2,050. You could obviously pick up the same bundle now for even less, or go for the A7 Mark III for about the same price. Now, the iPhone Pro Max I'm using cost $1,300 last month, but you could technically get the smaller Pro with less storage for about $1,050. But already, on paper, the A7 Mark II is costing £750 more than the iPhone. Will it be worth it? Now, the price isn't the only thing to take into account though, it's the size. So I carry my phone everywhere, but I don't always have my camera on me. So the A7 is small though. I mean, if you compare it like for like with say a Canon series, this thing is tiny. The lens is pretty big though, although I do use this every day and I would class this as an everyday carry camera. And in terms of the lenses, obviously with the Sony camera you can swap out to any focal length desired, while the iPhone is stuck with the three inbuilt lenses, the ultra wide, the wide and the telephoto, which equates to 13mm, 26mm and 52mm. So comparing that to the Tamron lens that I'm using, which is 28mm to 75mm, I can almost copy the same focal length of the two of the three lenses on the iPhone. But the ultra wide one, which is the 13mm that I cannot replicate on my camera, I mean the one on the iPhone is incredible, although it's terrible in low light as night mode doesn't work on this mode. And the battery life on the Sony is pretty poor, but that's kind of the same with most SLRs. You just learn to live with that. You wouldn't go out for the day without taking at least one spare battery with you, whereas with the iPhone you could rely on it lasting you pretty much the entire day without worrying about charging it or taking a power bank with you. And as for the video quality, so I've obviously got the A7 Mark II and it doesn't shoot in 4K, only in 1080p. So this is one of the reasons that I now actually shoot all of my videos with my iPhone, because it does shoot in 4K. I will eventually upgrade to the A7 Mark III or possibly just wait for the Mark IV when it arrives. And finally, the photo quality, the reason that we're all here. So firstly, the quality of the photos produced on both, it really is great. I mean, I use the A7 for probably 90% of my Instagram posts, and I recommend the Sony Alpha range to pretty much every single person who ever asks about which camera they should get. Okay, so I've taken a mixture of photos side by side with both devices and I'll try my best to replicate each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put both photos on screen and you have a look at the two and kind of work out which one you think was taken with the Sony and which one you think was taken with the iPhone Pro Max. And let's see if you're right. Okay, so first up, we've got my TV setup. So we've got one on the left and one on the right. I mean, they're very similar. They're very, very similar. Can you guess which one was the iPhone and which one is the Sony? There we go. So the iPhone was on the left and the Sony was on the right. And I mean, as you can tell, they're very, very similar. And next up, taking advantage of the kind of the darker lights, you can see here that the one on the left is kind of a little bit blown out on the LifeX beam. The one on the right is handling the darks and the lights a little bit better. And there you go, so the iPhone on the right hand side there. And here I wanted to kind of show the difference between the close-ups and the depth of field and the detail. So I mean, again, we are comparing the A7 Mark II with the iPhone Pro, and you could literally have either of these pictures on Instagram and you couldn't tell the difference. So again, Sony on the left and iPhone on the right. Very similar. And this is a good shot as well for just showing the depth of field. So you can probably tell which of the two here has the real depth of field and which has the fake depth of field. Can you tell the difference? Okay, so I'm just going to run through the next 5 or 6 pictures here. I'm just going to let them scroll through on screen. I won't talk over those, so I'll let you kind of guess for yourself which one of it is, the left or the right, and the iPhone or the Sony camera. And onto the last shot here of the 20th anniversary PlayStation controller. So again, very similar. I would be happy with either of these on my Instagram feed, which has opened my eyes to which device I should be using to take and upload my pictures now. So if one thing comes from this test today, I mean, it's proving just how good the iPhone Pro is compared to a camera. It really can compete with the A7 Mark II in several of these photos. Could you live with the iPhone as your only camera? Yeah, you definitely could. It's more than capable of taking incredible photos. So for your Instagram or your social media, there's absolutely no reason not to just use the iPhone Pro. Would I swap my 5-year-old A7 for it? No, I probably wouldn't. Overall, you just can't beat the Sony. The true depth of field that you get from the lens on the camera and the actual picture quality is just next level. It performs better in low light, it's more kind of hands-on, and you've got every control or setting at your fingertips. So if you could only use one with the sole intention of taking photos for, say, Instagram, I would definitely recommend the iPhone Pro. it'd be more than adequate for any of your photos, and it'd cost you 700 quid less. And that sums up my overview and comparison of the photos of both the Sony A7 Mark II against the iPhone 11 Pro. What did you think? And what do you currently use to take your photos? Have I convinced you one way or the other? And as always, thanks for watching. I hope this video was informative and it was useful to you. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow me on Instagram. Until next time.